Thank you all for being here. And so excited to have you here at the Empowered CEO Summit. We are here with Miss Patrice Malloy. Did I pronounce that correctly? Patrice
You
Malloy?
did. Thank you.
Awesome. We're so excited. This is going to be an amazing, amazing conversation. So if you have any tabs open, silence your phones. If you have to pick your kids up, just send them a text. Tell them you're going to come back later because you do not want to miss what Miss Patrice is going to be sharing with us today. So Miss Patrice, she is the affluent CEO. She is your fairy, sorry, I want to say this right, your financial fairy godmother. She is the AI alchemist, transforming what it means to lead in business. With over 20 years of expertise in finance, tech, and program management, she has solidified her place as the go-to fractional CFO for powerhouse women, ready to leave the mediocre behind. I don't know if you're ready, but I'm definitely ready to leave the mediocre behind.
Yes, ma'am.
So Miss Patrice doesn't just manage your finances, she multiplies your wealth. That is a key significant thing that we really need to keep in mind. It's not just about managing your money, but multiplying your wealth. That I love that.
Thank
Um,
you.
Patrice doesn't just resolve tax complexities, she turns them into strategic advantages that fuel long-term growth. She is an international speaker, certified AI consultant, and unapologetic thought leader. Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you.
She also empowers ambitious women of color to scale their businesses beyond mere profit, elevating them to create lasting impact and generational wealth, which we're all looking for that generational wealth. Her presentations, if you have an opportunity to meet her in person or even what you're going to learn today, she offers more than just information, but she delivers transformative experiences that are designed to shift how you approach business, your finances, and your legacy. Her company, Malloy Management Group, and Opulence with an AI in the middle, Business Solutions. She's going to help you break the mold with bold innovation, uncompromising transparency, and unshakable transparency. I'm sorry, unshakable integrity. Thank you so much, Patrice. I mean, when I saw your bio and I saw the title, unapologetic just jumps out at me so fierce. It's literally slapping me in the face because I feel that we're in a world now where we're celebrated to be like other people.
Mm,
And we're not encouraged to find out what it is about us that makes us stand out in the market, what makes us special. Like we don't even have the time to figure out what we do well. And in the age of AI, that's such a critical piece of success. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. I have my pen, my notepad. I'm ready to begin. But could you first please just share a bit about, your journey in terms of being an entrepreneur and then how you actually got into the AI space?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and to speak with everyone. My journey was interesting, or maybe it's not, right? I was in corporate America for a long time. I was working in the government space. I did a lot of work for Homeland Security, Department of Defense, Defense Logistics Agency, Veterans Affairs, Customs and Border Protection, and everything had both a finance and an IT aspect to it. So
Mm,
I've been doing things like machine learning, robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, gosh, internal controls, like all kinds of things for many, many years now, quite honestly, and then building applications. So I've always kind of been in that fintech space. So that's really where my love of this came from. And I had some incredible opportunities to be on projects that allowed me to get my hands dirty in those spaces, to be able to understand the coding and the requirements gathering and then the planning and all the things to see that idea to fruition in the actual like application. So that's kind of where I got started. As far as entrepreneurship, I just knew like from an early age, quite honestly, like this can't be it. Like this is not life. Um,
we've all
I was
been there.
very blessed. Yes, I was incredibly blessed because many times I was the only woman of color in the boardroom. I was able to elevate to the C-suite fairly early in my career. So I'd say like maybe 5 years after getting into it. So I was able to see a lot of the conversations that most people don't get to see. So
Mhm.
that, was incredible. So kind of being like a fly on the wall when people are having these conversations about how to transform businesses, how to increase bottom lines and profits, how do we leverage our legal team to use the tax loopholes, excuse me, that, corporations are eligible for. So it's all these conversations. And then I thought, as I'm saying these things and listening to these things and taking note, none of them look like me. Like
Mm,
literally, nobody looked like me. I would say probably until like my like 10th or 15th year in business, or she's in corporate. And I think today a lot of people have the luxury of having mentors that look like them. I didn't have that either. So it was really going out and finding, identifying who I could talk to, who the
yeah,
allies were, right before the word ally came out.
right.
But even in that space, it was just like, can I really trust this person? And then, you're in that space where they want to take your ideas. It was just crazy. So I just
Yeah.
knew that, like, even the corporate was incredible, it just wasn't the space that I wanted to be in, because I don't think that I could be authentic and I could thrive the way that God had positioned me to really thrive in those spaces.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you've been familiar with this, but how you have to have a certain kind of way about you when you're in corporate. You have to show up a
Yes.
certain way, and you're so pleasant, and you're so this, and you're so
So
that, and
well
all the,
spoken.
yeah, like the boardroom candy, and it's just like, like,
Boardroom candy.
okay, yes, like we'll play this game because I got, my paycheck needs to clear and everything. But it's just like,
Okay.
I knew in business I didn't have to do that anymore, and I was able to show up as I wanted to show up, speak the way I wanted to speak, and really, like we talk about, have this like unapologetic, just personality about me. I'd say it's like the things that we've just, been through, things that we've seen, things that we need to share with people so that they can avoid the pitfalls, all those things. I knew that that's what I wanted to share. So that's kind of
Yeah.
a roundabout way of how I got to where I am
That's
today.
amazing. And you actually just took me all the way back to my corporate America days in on Madison Avenue in New York. Thought I had
Ooh.
made it, had my black card. And I remember I had my hair in cornrows, and my manager was like, that is not a professional look from our
No.
experience. I was like, I'm an auditor. No one is even seeing me. I'm the nerd that's testing the computer systems. And so just that idea of being unapologetic
Mm-hmm.
for Black women, if I'm just going to really be honest about it, is really the ability to be authentically who you are.
Mm-hmm.
For other people, unapologetic, they can just show up. Bob will show up with his khakis and a little, like he's fine. But for us to be unapologetic, it's just us
Mm-hmm.
trying to be who we are, speak the way that we want to speak, and
Mm-hmm.
navigating that space. I remember, it's exhausting because you have a 9 to 5, and then in that 9 to 5, you have another job of putting on a mask and trying to figure out, okay, how do you talk to this person? It was like having 5 jobs at one time,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not even
Mm-hmm.
getting paid what you're worth, right? So
No.
listen, I'm glad that you have moved on.
Thank you. You too. Shoot.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just so interested in learning also what you're doing because there's so many key elements that popped up to me when I was preparing for this. And one of the things that I do see for especially small business owners, especially for women, we're doing a lot of those low impact tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why we're getting stuck in that space, especially for AI. And so you talk about the low impact
Mm.
tasks with your background in strategy. Can you just talk to us? How do people differentiate? Like, what is actually for you to do that's driving your business, and what is
Mhm.
something that you can offload?
That's a great question. I think that people need to really focus on those profit inducing activities, the PIAs, as we like to call
Mhm.
them. If
Mhm.
it's not something that's going to grow your client base or your clientele, if it's not something that's going to make the cash register ring or sing, we don't need to be doing it. If
Yeah.
it's not you working in your zone of brilliance or genius and being able to command more, work essentially into your company, then you don't need to do it. It's something that somebody else or artificial intelligence can do for you.
Right.
So the answering of the emails, scheduling, the calendar meetings and all the things, going through even composing emails. You can
Mhm.
leverage artificial intelligence to write emails for you on your behalf, right? So it's things like that. It's things like creating standard operating procedures, even though it's very important to have these, right?
Mhm.
Foundational pieces of your business. You don't have to be the one stuck in the weeds doing it. But
Yeah.
if you are, you can still leverage something like that to train people that you want to onboard to your team. So it's really being strategic and intentional about how do we offload some of the things that again are not going to move the needle in our business onto either artificial intelligence, or how can we bring our team members into the fold to take this off of us as well.
Yeah. With a lot of the business owners that you work with, do you find that they are kind of stuck in the weeds? A lot of people that I work with, they don't
Mhm.
have any standard anything. Like there's nothing standard, there's no processes. And then they're like, hey, how do I automate it? How do I use
Mhm.
AI? I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
where do we start here? Like, is that something that you've experienced? How do you kind of walk people
Yes.
through that
Yes.
journey?
Absolutely. So I love that you said it because I was like, we don't want to automate something that's a mess. Like, why do we want to speed up the mess? Like, so let's first start there. But yes, I always do an audit of the systems, of the financials, of the business itself, so I can understand how it's working and how it needs to move. So we
Right.
identify our point A so that we can get to the point B of where we need to be. So it's again going through all of their systems. If they don't have things like those standard operating procedures in place, we need to create them. So again, leveraging AI to help us with that.
Mhm.
Being able to do things like create looms to reduce the amount of time that we have to spend on unnecessary meetings. So
Right.
it's all the things that we can really do to, again, take the administrative, mundane, redundant tasks off of our plates once we've got the good systems and processes and procedures in place, and then automate it from there. So, just like you mentioned, it's a step, right? People want
Right.
to like put the cart before the horse, and it's like, no, we need to get a nice, pretty clean foundation first, and then we can automate it afterwards.
Exactly, exactly. I tell people
Mm-hmm.
all the time, AI is going to fuel whatever you have existing. So if you have
Yes.
chaos, it's going to fuel your chaos. If you have
Yes.
a process, it's going to fuel that. So it's not going to clean your house up. It's not going to
Mm-mm.
do the dirty work that you've been avoiding. It can help you in that process, but it's not going to do it for
Mhm.
you. But just so do you work with like startups, small business owners? Like what stage of businesses do you typically focus on with your clients?
You know, it's a combination. So on the MMG side, it's really like the finances, the CFO, strategy, planning,
Got it.
forecasting, all the things, grow, scale, sell your business.
Hmm.
On the opulence business, it's also the startups as well as those larger businesses because even large businesses don't have systems in place, right? So it's again identifying what you need to get you started
Right.
off. If you're a startup, it's what you need to get cleaned up, automated, expedited, optimized, all those things if you're a growing, scaling business. So I work with all of those folks. Now, as far as like industry and niche, it's really more so focused on service-based businesses.
Got it.
But I do have a couple e-commerce clients. I do.
Mhm.
However, I prefer I'm like, ooh, y'all give me heartburn. So I do like to focus on those, service-based businesses, so coaches, consultants, creatives, our
Right.
D&I, our speakers, those types of powerhouse women. So that's what I really like to support.
Yeah, and it seems also that the companies that you like to support, maybe there's like an impact piece of it because
Hmm.
how you're able to help them build, they're able to do like build their capacity, not just
Yeah.
necessarily making more revenue, but maybe they're also creating more impact in
Oh
terms
yeah.
of, yeah,
Absolutely. I love that you said that. It's actually one of our, core values. It's impact driven, it's innovation. It's also income producing, right? But for those of us who have really strong, like charitable,
right.
goals that we want to do, we focus on those types of things. How do we make sure that we have enough money to set aside for our giving, for
Hmm.
church, for those other organizations? How do we help our community? How are
Yeah,
we able to help ourselves? Because quite honestly, we forget that we need to support ourselves so that we can pour from the overflow
right,
instead of having to try
exactly.
to give right from the depleted cups that a lot of us have. So it's like it's a holistic view. It's not just
Right.
the business, it's your personal life as well. How do we make you better on a personal front? So it's all of those conversations. We literally have a conversation about everything that you desire. And
Wow.
then we figure out how do we help you achieve that.
Right. So it's more like a holistic. It's not just
Hmm.
we're going to look at your business, but we're going to look at your business and how it impacts different areas of your life in the
Yeah.
present and then also what you're wanting to do in the future. That's
Yes,
amazing.
ma'am.
That's
Thank
amazing because
you.
actually a lot of businesses don't look at that holistic view.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes when you do have that structure that you're talking about, it probably helps that person to speed up their progress because they're not just thinking about how do I make money today, but it's like
Hmm.
the actions that I'm doing today are going to also lead to, 5 or 10 years from now. And I'm thinking about my grandchildren. I'm thinking about the legacy that I want to build.
Yeah.
And so I really love that because a lot of organizations are not thinking that way. They're just like, put this ad in, get that ROI, pull them
Yeah.
leads in today.
Yes. Yes, and thank you for pointing that out. I think one of the reasons why we did decide to kind of go that route is because you have to have something attached to your goals, right? If you're just focused on money, you're going to run out of steam eventually, especially when it gets hard, because it's going to get hard. So it's like, what other goals are we going to attach these achievements to? It's like, Do I have more time to spend with my kids? Can I travel like I want to? Can I be with my parents if they're aging? It's like all of those types of, things can I give to my organizations and charities? Do I have the ability to set up a nonprofit organization and
Right.
use as an office? It's all of
Oh,
these
hold
things
on.
that you can do. Yes,
Dropping some
ma'am.
nuggets here.
Yes, you can. A family office, you sure can. You can manage a whole bunch of millions of dollars of assets and all kinds of things. Yes, you can. You better get your life together.
I just saw I'm stuck on that part of building a profitable, viable business and how it directly ties to having a profitable life.
Mhm.
And so like that to me is like it's not I feel like it reminds me of being in Africa, the idea of having a village, you know. And so
Mhm.
it's one of the things that I do feel is disconnected from maybe like a Western view of business. It's kind of like, you know, how quickly can I be acquired? You know, how many people, how can I scale up as quickly as fast as possible? But I
Mhm.
love that you connect those two things. Like your business is a representation of your lifestyle, of what you're passionate about. So
Yeah.
when you're working with your clients, what are those different like core elements that you kind of focus on to help them? You know, what are those building blocks to get to that profitable business so that you can enjoy the overflow? Are there like specific things that
Absolutely.
you help them
Mhm.
focus on?
Absolutely. From the finance perspective, we have what's called our CEO blueprint. So we literally have them go through different goals. Like, where do you see yourself in the next 6 to 12 months? Where
Hmm.
do you want your family life to be? Do you want to travel? Do you want to give things like bonuses to your employees? Do you want to provide benefits? So it's all of these different questions that we'll go through and ask them to help them really start to think and think big. So it's
Yeah.
like while we're having these conversations, there are no limitations. Give me the most audacious, like makes you want to
Yeah.
like choke on it type of response. And then what we'll do is identify what we need to do to kind of stair step our way to that goal. So that's the process. It's really
Yeah.
understanding what it is that you desire, because we forget to say what we desire
Right.
as people.
Yeah.
And there's no point in building a business that you hate or that's got you, held hostage
Right.
on a
Or
daily
wanting to go
basis.
back to
So
corporate, right?
yeah, yeah. So to being clear about that from the beginning, because a lot of people don't do that. And
That's
then
true.
in addition to that, they don't position their businesses for scale or sale in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, we have to think about that because people buy data, they buy
Right.
contact information, they buy processes and systems and teams. So it's
Yeah.
like, why not set it up correctly from the beginning?
Right. And do you feel like that's one of the main challenges when I feel like this idea of scale is happening very quickly? Like
Mhm.
it used to be like maybe companies would be in business 5 or 10 years and then they would like, okay, now we're looking to scale. People are trying
Right.
to go from startup to scale within like a week. I'm like, wow, I
Mhm.
know AI is doing all the things, but that is very, very fast.
Yes.
Is that like if they don't have that set up from the beginning, do you think that's one of the most frustrating areas when they're like, okay, now I need to scale? You know, it's just like, but you don't have the foundation, you don't have the goals.
Yes.
Like,
Absolutely. So there are instances where people do that. It's not obviously in a week, but in 6 months, in 12 months, depending on what type of service or product that you offer. But the thing is, it starts to break at a certain point because you didn't put the infrastructure in place. You don't have
right,
the team members that you need to help everything go and fulfill all of the orders or the services that you're supposed to be providing. You don't have the automations to make sure that you don't have to manually key in every email response to people, right? It's all the things that you need to have set up from the very beginning that helps you scale without having everything break,
right.
crash, and burn, and
Yeah,
then you having to start over from the very beginning.
yeah.
So yes, it's like, let's be intentional and strategic about this because this is going to happen, and will you be prepared for it?
Yeah. I love how you bring in the intentional piece as well,
Yeah.
because I see that sometimes in our just kind of society of business owners, we don't allow ourselves to define what success looks like for us. And so
Mhm.
you're now defining or operating on a success metric from someone else instead of really being intentional about what does it mean for you. So
Mhm.
I really love that approach. Is that something
Thank
that
you.
you really lean into in terms of when you're working with your clients?
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
part of that blueprint that we talked about. It absolutely. So, what does success mean? What does affluence mean to you? So, it's really having those questions because wealth, opulence, abundance, all those things mean different things to different people.
Right. True.
So,
Mhm.
right? For somebody, it might be, like you said, having more time to be able to spend with their kids. All right. How do we do that?
Right.
Other people, they might want to travel, 4 times a month. So, it's like, okay. how much do you need to set aside in order for you to do that? So it's really getting clear about what it is that success means to them, and then
Yeah.
building that blueprint based on those goals.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm really seeing that, especially in the AI space. I feel like AI can be overwhelming, but for the
Mhm.
people who have the clarity and have those success metrics, it can also be an accelerant. So in your different, if you're working with like larger corporations, small business
Mhm.
owners, in terms of the tool sets that you're using from an AI perspective, are they using similar tools? Are you building your own tools? Tell us a bit about how you're leveraging AI.
So it's a combination of things. So for those of you who are familiar with ChatGPT from the start, it's really teaching people how to use it, how to prompt, how to customize the settings so that things sound like them, it feels like them, so it's not cold or robotic. So it's really that. It's training their teams as well to kind of get their feet wet in artificial intelligence, what it means. How do we use, these tools to create more efficiency, get our time back, make more money without us physically having to do anything extra. So it's those conversations. For those businesses who are a little further along, it's leveraging some of those tools and then some. So it's like now that you have a team where you're going to onboard people, how do we use something like HeyGen so that
Mhm.
you can create, onboarding videos where you don't physically have to create the scripts and do it. You can have your avatar do it for you. It's um, creating SOPs at a much larger pace or capacity because you have something else that's happening like a new project or a contract you have to get ready for. So it's really identifying where they are in their space and then leveraging additional tools based on that, like
Yeah.
compose that AI, Perplexity, Copilot, Gemini. It's like all the things.
Yeah.
Ideogram for somebody who might be in the graphic design space, Mint Journey. It's like there's so many tools out there
Yeah.
that I think I get the overwhelm that
Hmm.
people have, but it's like, okay, learn the basics, understand how to prompt, and then start to look at some of the other tools and how that can enhance your knowledge in the
Your
AI space.
knowledge, yeah. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. One of the things I also think about because I have an engineering background, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel that I take for granted the language and the terms and even the idea of prompt engineering. It's something that's not like, oh, engineering. But
Uh-huh.
for a lot of people that don't have a tech background, maybe you're an artist or something, they get like intimidated by the terminology, by, this idea of machine learning. So for someone who is maybe doesn't have a tech background, maybe hasn't even worked in corporate, how would you advise that person in terms of don't be intimidated by AI? Like, how would you encourage them to really start implementing?
That's a good question. I like to talk to, well, first and foremost, when I meet people, I need to understand how to communicate. So I ask them, like, are you a visual learner? Do you need an
Ooh,
auditory type of situation? Do you need
mhm,
somebody who needs bulleted points in an email? So it's really kind of understanding how they learn first and foremost.
mhm.
Then it's just explaining it. It's like, how do I explain this like a fifth grader? And it's not to minimize anybody, but it's like we want to make things as easy as possible for people to understand so that they start to remove that fear
Yeah,
from what it is that they're about to like, embark into. So that's what I really do. Like, somebody's like, I need help, creating social media content for the next 30 days. I'm not going to say, well, you need to prompt like this and this and this and the algorithm and this. It's like, okay, what do you want it to say? Let's act like this is your content marketing manager on the side or acting like your
right.
ghostwriter. This
Hmm.
is what we're going to have it do. And then we're going to take a look at it and then see if we like it. We're going to tweak it. We're going to put your voice, your mood, your vibe, your personality into it, and then continue to create. We're going
Yeah,
to train our AI. We're going to teach it to look at things that sound like us. We're going to teach it to essentially act on our behalf and think for us, so
right.
that we don't have to always do all the things by ourselves. So it's like your personal assistant. So it's really
Hmm.
just kind of breaking it down and making it relatable to that person for the needs they have.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I created my own custom GPT, and it's
Yeah,
my personal assistant and my business coach all at the same time.
love that. Love that.
Like, we're
Yes.
there, like motivate me, but kick me in the butt every once in a while, like don't let me get off. But you
That's so
mentioned
good.
Thank you. You mentioned marketing, which is, I think, where a lot of small business owners start. They're like, okay, let me either create some emails, let me, create some content. What are
Mm-hmm.
other practical ways outside of marketing? I think for people that are like really serious, like, okay, I've got the marketing thing down packed, I can create LinkedIn posts. What are some other practical ways that you're seeing people use AI to really accelerate the growth for their business?
Oh, oh gosh, tons of things. You can do presentations. You can have it
Mhm.
support you with that because we all know, well, I'd say back in the corporate space, having to produce presentations on a weekly basis, you're like, yo, I'm tired of
Right.
this. So it can help you with that. Or having to be like a spreadsheet like samurai. Like I was always in a spreadsheet. Sure you
Hmm.
were too. So it's
Yep.
how do I take this information, put it together and create results based on the information. So you can use it to ask it to give you answers to the problems. What do I need to do here? If it's a profit and loss statement, where are the areas where there's leakage? Where are the areas where we can improve?
Yeah.
It's you can use artificial intelligence for so many different things. You can have it summarize a book if you have to read a book. It's like
Right.
you can have it transcribe a YouTube video if you want to get, key points. There's a lot of things that you can leverage it to do that's outside of social media marketing and sales.
Right.
However, I will say
Hmm.
you really want to be the best possible salesperson you can. Because if you have a service or a skill or a product or something that's going to help the people, you need to make sure that you're telling people that you have it. Because otherwise, you're squandering your gifts.
Right.
So make sure you are that master salesperson. Make sure you are that marketer. That the language that you're putting
Yeah.
out there is attracting the right people and repelling the people that you aren't meant to serve.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I see that actually in the promotional piece of your business, right? So there's like there's like identifying a customer, there's creating the thing that they need, but then promoting it is a
mhm.
big piece of it.
Oh yeah.
And you don't see a lot of people. I think the people who struggle to earn as much as they want also have a struggle promoting.
Mhm.
So is that something you can actually talk to in terms of how can people, even if you think of something like just consistently posting and maybe having a schedule where you're going to promote once a week, like, can you talk to anyone who's like having that struggle? Like, yeah, I'm great at making the things. They have
Yeah.
probably a whole suite of products in Canva, but it's like, okay, gotta,
Schedule it in Canva.
people have to know about it.
Yeah, if you're gonna make it, if you're gonna spend the time making it, schedule it, ladies and gentlemen, put it out there.
Out there.
What I've noticed and what I've seen based on my research is that people really love videos too. Like, show what you're doing on a video.
Yeah.
You have to sell every day. So it doesn't have to necessarily be like this glaring, like buy from me, buy from me, buy from me. But it's like if you have a service or product or suite or something that can help somebody, let them know how they can work with you. Book a call.
Right.
That's a sales mechanism too, so that they can, become indoctrinated into what you do, how you can serve and support them. So make sure that you're showing up every single day and that the visibility is growing because that's what is going to separate you from a lot of the other people.
That's
Like
true.
you mentioned, a lot of people aren't putting in that extra legwork to
Hmm.
show up.
Hmm.
So if you just show up, listen, you don't have to show your face. You can have other people sell for you if you need to. Like you can create an avatar, you know what I mean? Just
Right.
show
Yeah.
up.
That's a
So
great
that's what I
point
would
you
say.
mentioned in terms of the avatar because so
Mhm.
many people, and specifically the clients that I work with are typically women of color. So women of
Uh-huh.
color entrepreneurs. And so they're like, "Oh, my hair isn't done. I have to do this, I have to do that." I'm like, "No, like
You
we're
don't.
missing the point." First of all, if you're actually creating value, no one actually cares what your hair looks like. Are
Mhm.
you solving a problem? Are you not solving a problem? So even what you just mentioned in terms of creating your avatar, I think that is like the easiest next step for a lot of people. But it also sometimes brings in that conversation of responsible AI because you have
Mhm.
people who are, which I didn't know this until yesterday, creating avatars and instead of showing up in like a meeting, their avatar is the one that shows up. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm noted to self, but I didn't even know if that was a thing. But
Yeah.
so how do you feel about the conversation of like responsible AI, like people that are growing their businesses, they want to do it in the right way. Now, I think
Mhm.
what is right may be changing, I don't know. But they do want to align their business practices with the values that they believe in. So
Mhm.
how would you speak to someone that's like, how do I do this responsibly?
Ooh. So I love that you said that. So going back to ChatGPT, they have custom instructions where you can feed it what it is that you want. You can feed it your core values. You can tell it what you don't believe in, and make
Hmm.
sure that as you're creating content, that it either stays away from those things or it creates content that displays your core values, your mission, what you believe, all the things. That's one way. Another thing I would definitely say is if it's something that feels innately wrong in your body as you
Hmm.
type it, you probably shouldn't post it, right? So it's like it's like let's use our emotional intelligence. Let's use what we have, our our guide, internal guides, as we start to create some of this content or whatever else it is that you're using artificial intelligence for.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, somebody's going to use it for evil,
Right.
but it's like you don't have to, but you also want to make sure that you're safeguarding yourself from that too.
Yeah.
So just be very intentional and mindful about what you use your videos or your content and stuff for, and make sure that you are placing your intellectual property information on there so that people don't steal it and use it for bad on
Right.
your behalf.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you just have to be very careful just with anything else that's new, like the iPhones, you can do some damage with an iPhone. So it's like
That's true. Yeah.
being careful.
And I believe that people that are gonna do bad things are gonna do bad things anyway.
Mm-hmm.
We're like making it seem like there weren't crimes happening before AI. Like people that are gonna commit crimes, they're gonna commit them anyway. AI may be enabling them, but it doesn't preclude anyone from, being able to use that tool that way. Um, One of the things I read also recently is that with the onset of AI, so there's this dichotomy where women of color are opening the most businesses quicker than any
Mm-hmm.
other demographic.
Yes.
But the wealth gap for Black women is widening. So we're about 90% behind, like behind white men. So
Mm-hmm.
we have this dichotomy of we're opening the most businesses and we're getting poorer. Right.
Yes.
And to me, that goes into this mentality of working harder and not smarter. And so that was
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that, really drew out to me from your information. How would you speak to that in terms of even your journey from corporate to starting your own business to now, legacy work? How would you speak to someone now that's like on the fence or, it's like we don't have time to waste it. And
Yeah,
90% is a lot.
it is. You know, I'd say a couple things. First of all, if you are still in the corporate space, do not leave your job until you have a solid plan. It is not fun to have to try to figure out how you're going to feed your children, if
And
you
sell a
leave your
course
job.
at the same time.
Right. Right. The second thing is, I would say the most strategic, quickest way to produce income is to leverage what you already do and what you already know.
Mhm.
Act as a consultant for somebody, take calls and see how you can work on something in a projectized, manner, do things like Fiverr, looking for positions. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can get income to come in.
Right.
Search for some contracts, put in some RFPs and figure out how you can do that as well. But you want to make sure that you have a plan.
Mhm.
Just deciding that you're going to start a business without a plan is not going to be the best way to do it. Because then you're not thinking about the foundational pieces. You're not thinking about putting the systems and processes and procedures in place. You're not thinking about, oh, I also need to make enough money to pay myself, as well as pay for all of the setup, like our customer relationship management stuff, our websites, if that's what you have, anything else that you actually need to run a business, your Zoom, subscription, all the things. So it's like being very strategic about what it is that you're going to use first to get
Mhm.
your business off the ground.
Mhm.
I love the fact that we're looking at entrepreneurship, but we also need to look at it intelligently from a lens of planning and strategy before you just dive all the way in.
Mhm.
That's
So
what I would say.
I love that your advice really comes from a perspective of like get clear,
Mm-hmm.
set a plan, execute the plan. That's kind of like what you don't just jump out there. Have your blueprint, have your key things that you're focused on. Um, in terms of the blueprint that you mentioned, I know you said you
Mm-hmm.
had a gift that you wanted to provide to the audience. Do you want to just walk us through the blueprint?
Absolutely. So I didn't put the second thing in. So after
Oh,
we set up the business, you need to charge higher prices. A lot of times,
it's okay. Hey, this is life going on, right? Like,
my daughter came from school, she's getting ice. You need to charge higher prices. For some odd reason, women, especially women of color, feel like we're not supposed to charge people for our services and our products, which I do not understand.
yeah,
Our
yeah,
counterparts have no problem saying it's $1,000 piece and thank you, pay the invoice, and then I'll get started.
yeah.
Like, why are we not doing the same thing?
Can we talk more about that? I don't know
Yes, we
where
can.
that comes from because I struggled with that myself. And
Mhm.
then there was something that happened. I'm trying to remember. Oh, I found out what PwC was charging people
Mm,
for me.
yes.
And I was like, what?
Oh, that bill rate?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my is what?
We only get that little
So
fraction. Mm.
exactly. I'm like, that is what? That was
It's
such an eye opener.
disrespectful.
And I think I wasn't actually supposed to know what my
Hmm.
billable rate was for the particular clients that I was working on. This was around like Sarbanes-Oxley times. It was like a while ago.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
And I was shocked. I was completely shocked. But I don't know. I mean, maybe we can just dig in more to this. Like, how do people know what to charge and what price? Are they just not doing their research? Is it, because that, first of all, if people were actually charging their worth,
Hmm.
they could probably have a viable business just by one
Absolutely.
decision of charging what your worth is in the market. So
Hmm.
how do people, that's a big problem that especially women are facing.
Yes. Let's do it. It's a couple of things. I think it's also doing your market research. Who do you know in your industry who's a competitor? What are they charging?
Mhm.
And then you add some to it. That's one thing. But what I really would like to say is I when I'm talking to my clients, I say you need to present yourself as a category of one. There is nobody like you. There's nobody who does what you do the way that you do it based on the experience that you have, the expertise, etc. So you need to market that. You need to position yourself as the authority in that space for that particular thing that you provide or that you do.
Mm.
That's another way. Showing up on social media, showing up on emails, having podcast interviews, doing summits, doing all those things also helps position you as an authority, which
All
is
right.
going to allow you to claim that price that you put on your products and services.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second thing. The third thing is we need to stop charging hourly rates.
Yeah.
People forget, yeah, that they
Yeah.
are paying for the shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go through all the years of experience, expertise, education, licensing, certification, training, and all the things to get to where you are. So you
Right.
need to incorporate that into the price that you charge.
Right.
We
Yeah.
forget about that,
Mm.
right? It's like, no, you were paying me because I spent 20 years doing X, Y, and Z. You can do it.
Right.
You got 20
It's
years?
20 years. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Go for it. If not, this is my price. Like,
Right.
you
And on
like it or you
top
love
of
it.
that, we're also typically over delivering. Right. So
Hmm.
you're already undercharging and you're over delivering.
Yes.
So it's like it's a no-win situation from jump. From when you sign
Yeah.
the document, you're already
Hmm.
losing money because you're not
Hmm.
charging what you're worth and you're gonna go over and beyond. So it's like even if you probably doubled what you're charging now, it would probably be at a rate that's conducive to the value that you're actually, providing. But
Yeah.
that's a whole conversation on its own. I see that too often. And I do think that probably contributes to that 90% gap. Like we're
Hmm.
opening up so many businesses, but it's not moving the wealth needle at all. And so the
Absolutely.
math, you know, I got an A in math, but that math is not
And
that
that method. Right.
math is not making sense at all.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Listen, the most unqualified,
ma'am,
unprepared, really
ma'am.
have no reason being here type of people will be like, yeah, bro, like this is
Yeah,
what I'm charging. And not
exactly.
even think twice about
Not
it.
blink twice and then be like, oh, you don't want to. And then maybe it's also abundance versus scarcity. So
Yeah.
we're willing to take the offer that's in front of us because we're
Hmm.
afraid of when is the next offer going to come
Hmm.
versus other demographics. They're like, I know there's another opportunity out there, right? So
Oh
even if
yeah.
you don't take my contract or whatever the case is, you know, I'm going to find someone else. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but it's like we're shooting ourselves in the foot every single time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of that upbringing. A lot of people like in the African American culture, talking about money is very taboo. That's one thing too.
Mhm.
We're told if you grew up in the church, you're not supposed to ask more than you need
True.
to live. And it's like, wait a minute, no, no. God told me that He has abundance and provision for me. He has all the things for me. He did not want us to live in poverty or to be
Right.
struggling. So it's like reframing our mindsets
Hmm. Hmm.
in that area of what we think we deserve. And I think
Yeah.
that's so important too. So I think
Mhm.
it's a long line of generational things that has just been kind of like ingrained in us that we just need to break free from
Yeah.
to feel okay. Listen, I don't listen. You want this service, this is what it costs. If not, that's fine.
Right. It's not- You're gonna come back to me eventually.
Right.
It's gonna cost more. So you might
Mhm.
as well just come on
Yeah.
board now.
Yesterday's price is not yesterday's price. So you better just know.
You better know
Just know
you're
that.
walking away. But I love what you said, what we think we're worth. And so for me, that's such a like a t-shirt moment. When I say t-shirt moment, something that I'll see in a t-shirt. Like your business is not going to grow beyond what you think your worth is.
Ooh,
And
yes,
so
ma'am.
when you're struggling and you're like, hey, I want to hit a seven-figure business, but you think your worth is only $90,000, you're not going to get to that seven-figure business because there's something
Mm-mm.
internally that needs to shift before you get the external results that you're looking for.
Ooh,
So that worth piece, oh, that's expensive.
yes,
That's
it
a
is.
whole
Girl, the opportunity cost of, yeah, of
of,
not really charging what you're
of
worth is
yeah,
insane.
it is
Hmm.
really crazy. But yeah, so this has been literally amazing. I have like so many other nuggets. I'm like, oh, I need to get you back on the next summit,
Of
definitely.
course.
But for people who are listening in the summit and they're like, I need to work with Patrice. She is speaking my love language. I love clarity and strategy. How can they reach out to you? How can they work with you? Let us know how we can also support you.
Of course, you can reach out to me on social media. I am on LinkedIn at Patrice J. Malloy, as well as Facebook. I am on Instagram at I am Patrice Malloy, as well as TikTok. And you can reach me on my website, malloygroupinc.com. And yeah, let's grab a coffee. Let's talk about what we can do to support you. I just want to know what's going on in your world. And I'm looking forward to just connecting with every one of you.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. I wanted to also
Yeah.
mention for the blueprint that you mentioned that you're gonna
Mhm.
that you're gonna provide as a guide. Do you want to just give people just like a little bit of an insight on what they
Yes.
should expect from that?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that we have been talking about, which I think is just this persistent challenge that we're facing, is understanding our pricing strategy. What do we need to charge, and what is it worth to us as far as profit margins go? So, as part of the CEO blueprint, I'm going to provide you with a profit and loss sheet. One, I'm also going to provide you with a pricing structure so that you can kind of play with what it looks like to see what you need to price your service at to hit a particular profit margin. Ladies and gentlemen, based on your industry, we need to make sure that we are working towards profit margins as we're creating our pricing.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be included. We're also going to be talking about our visions and our goals. What are your visions for your business? What are your CEO goals? So, all of that's going to be included in this particular resource so that I want you to have the foundational pieces to get that business to the place where it needs to be for you to really start making that impact and income.
Yeah.
So, that's what you can expect.
That's a whole masterclass right
It is.
there. That's a whole because people don't think about the margins. You're
Mhm.
actually living off of the margins. It's not just how much revenue you have in, the margins matter,
Mhm.
and then even industry wide. So that's a valuable piece of information. And I definitely appreciate you being so generous to offer that. So
Of course.
yeah, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much for being a part of this. You were the quickest yes that I had, and so I am just so honored to be here with you, and definitely will want to support you as best as I can moving forward. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.